I first have to just say that the running of a parish requires a number of, especially volunteers. Since this morning, when I got up, I was on a elongated phone call with a military priest who's serving in Bahrain, and then came over to the parish to do a long day of reflection for those who are receiving Holy Communion and confirmation in a month's time. And then immediately left that to have a wedding here. It was the first wedding with the new renovation. They were so happy at their own timing of it all. And then popped into the confessional, and then popped out, and then here I am. So I say all this to say, I depend on sacristans. I depend on volunteers. I depend on deacons, altar servers, everybody who makes this place run. There's only certain things that only I can do, but if I do everything, then I'm going to die of a heart attack at some point. I say this to say there are plenty of you here who have steady and predictable lives and who are spending it on things that are not necessarily earning interest in heaven, shall we say. If that's you, I just want you to think about if you have capacity to predictably give 1 to 2 hours a week for this parish, and you'd like to send me an email, and we can plug you in to the right place. We depend on those who are dependable. If you are living a frenetic life, if you are afraid of me and you need to email Father Micah, that's also totally an option. Whatever it may be, we depend on people whose lives have been touched by the gospel and who want to live up to a call, an upward call, as we heard in the second reading. So if that's you, I'd love to hear from you. If you're not there yet, then just hold fast to Jesus and see what he does with you. From the gospel, I'd like to focus on the woman, the elderly, and Jesus. First, the woman who is in this place where her sin is exposed. And so often, you and I can find ourselves in places where we are exposed or where we're known and we're not loved. And that makes us very afraid then to be known. And then we become protective or self-defensive. We choose not to be vulnerable because we've had places or times or relationships in which somebody has known us in a place of our life that was not okay, and sometimes even by our own doing. And then in not treating us with tender, loving mercy. Then we learned this lie that if I let people into my life, I'll be hurt. There's a few ways then that this can go. The two that I'll offer you today is greed and peppiness. You can go by way of greed into having all of your pursuits be about money or material things. And it actually doesn't matter how many zeros are in your bank account. You can be utterly poor and fixated on money. You can be very rich and fixated on money. You can be very rich and not fixated on money. You can be very poor and not fixated on money. It actually has nothing to do with how much money you have and everything to do with the posture of your heart. If you believe then that people are untrustworthy, that if I let somebody in, if I risk the necessary vulnerability that yields intimacy, and I kill vulnerability in my heart and keep people at a distance, then not only am I lonely, but then I need pursuits in my life, and so I'm going to pursue things and not people because things can never hurt me the way people can. Or as the country song says, a long-necked, ice-cold beer never broke my heart. I can pursue worldly things because they are not endowed with God-given freedom and cannot hurt me. And so the pursuit of gluttony or the pursuit of greed, the pursuit of earthly things, feels safe. Also, when people are hurt and we carry a sadness with us, and I don't want anyone to know that sadness because, again, I have a hard time trusting people, then if I just put a fluttery smile on my face and always laugh and giggle and never let anybody in, then I can just hide and then nobody will have to know that I'm not okay, and then I won't be a burden to somebody else. This can happen in marriages. This can happen with neighbors. This can happen with your pastor. It can happen with so many different relationships. And if you don't have somebody that knows you in the depth of your pain, then your pain is compounded. If you don't let somebody know you in the depth of your pain, then your pain is compounded. The elderly. If you notice in the gospel, the elderly are the first to drop their stones and walk away. Jesus says, "He who is sinless, let him cast the first stone," and it's those who have life experience that get it. The young, who are all about changing the world. If only people would listen to me, then I can strive hard enough. I can tell the UN what to do. I can establish world peace. I've got it. But those who have had life experience have necessarily had their hearts been broken along the way. And they know what disappointment is like. They know what condemnation feels like. They're quicker to realize they're part of the problem most of the time. But my friends, if you don't have this humility, then you risk one of the most crushing things that Father Mike and I experience as priests. When we kneel at the deathbeds of people, and they're lucid enough, their kids aren't killing them early by pushing too much morphine, and they're lucid enough to have a conversation with the priest. And we try to lead them through a confession, and they say, "No, I'm fine. I'm old. I haven't really committed sins." It's so heartbreaking when they readily admit it's been decades since their last confession, and they say, "I haven't killed anyone. I'm a good person." And so there's no practiced humility along the way. They actually don't drop their stones of righteousness, and they expect to see God face to face. "I've done everything perfectly. Here I am, God." And then they don't claim God as Savior, and then they don't get God as Savior. And that's a heartbreaking place for us priests to be kneeling at the side of such a person on their deathbed. Lastly, Jesus. Jesus, who is not afraid to say, "Your adultery is a sin," but who also at the same time does not define the woman by her adultery. Any sin that you've ever committed in your life does not define you. Does it affect you? Probably. Assuredly, if you've never brought it up in confession. But your sin does not define you. Jesus says, "Go and sin no more. If you keep doing that, it will not go well for you. But go free, you are not condemned." The tender, loving mercy of Jesus draws us close to him, allows us to drop our stones of righteousness against other people, to live in better and right relationship, to deal with the disappointments of the world, and to risk vulnerability with God and with others. This risk, if properly taken, yields the possibility of intimacy with God and with others, which is the beginning of living life in heaven here on earth. It's what the saints are made of. Intimacy with God and connectedness with his people. It's the whole reason we do what we do in this faith and in this life. It's the reason we boldly proclaim sin but define no one by their sin. It's the reason that we are one of the single Christian churches left faithful to what the scriptures say about sin and its ramifications. And we will never give up on the mercy of Jesus, for it is wrought by his own precious blood. Praised be Jesus Christ. Let us stand and profess our faith. I believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth,